My wife was a master of deception. For years, she built our so-called perfect life on a foundation of lies. The final act? A secret $500,000 loan. She took out in my name. She was convinced she'd get away with it. She was wrong. This is the story of how I uncovered a massive financial betrayal and a fight that ended with her facing prison time for fraud and perjury. To really get the depth of this betrayal, you have to understand the life we built, or the life I thought we built. For 15 years, Sarah and I were that couple, the one everyone pointed to as having made it. We met in our early 20s, both ambitious, with the same dreams of a comfortable life, a family, and a home full of laughter. And we got it all. We lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in one of those quiet suburban neighborhoods. You know the type, with perfect lawns and kids riding bikes down the street. I had a steady, well-paying job in engineering, and Sarah, after a successful run in marketing, had transitioned to managing our household finances and investments full-time. And it was a role she seemed born for. Seriously, Sarah was meticulous, organized, and absolutely brilliant with numbers. I was good at earning money, but she was the one who made it grow. She handled everything. The mortgage, bills, retirement accounts, even our tax planning. It was just our system. I'd come home after a long day, and she'd have some color-coded spreadsheet ready, showing me how our investments did, or how she'd magically shaved a few $100 off our monthly budget. I wasn't just uninvolved. I was blissfully ignorant. I trusted her. Completely. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was my partner, my best friend, the woman I'd vowed to build a future with. Our friends used to joke about it. You're so lucky. My buddy Mark told me once at barbecue. My wife and I fight about money all the time. You guys seem to have it all figured out. I just smiled and nodded, feeling proud. We did have it figured out. Sarah was a family CFO, and I was a happy employee, content to let her steer the ship. I didn't see her control as a red flag. I saw it as care. All those long hours she spent in the home office, surrounded by bank statements, felt like an act of love, proof of her commitment to us. That trust was the bedrock of our marriage. It's what let me focus on my career, work late, and travel for business without a single worry about things at home. So when she suggests we consolidate some accounts for simpler management, or asked me to sign a stack of papers she'd already pre-filled for taxes, I just did it. No questions asked. If you'd suggested I read the fine print, I would have laughed. Reading the fine print would have felt like an accusation, an insult to the 15 years of faith I had in her. And that faith? That was my biggest mistake. It was a vulnerability she exploited. The open door she used to drag in a catastrophe that would bury me under $500,000 of debt I never even knew existed. The first crack in the facade showed up on a Tuesday. It was a completely ordinary day, the kind you immediately forget. I was at my desk, wrestling with a tricky engineering problem, when my office phone rang. A known number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but for some reason, I answered. "Am I speaking with Mr. James Miller?" A man's voice asked. It was professional, but firm. "This is he," I said, my mind still on the schematics in front of me. "Mr. Miller, my name is David. I'm calling from an asset recovery firm for Crestline Financial. We're calling about a delinquent business loan in your name, account ending in 7854. The outstanding balance is $92,450, and it's 120 days past due." I actually laughed. A short, confused laugh. "I think you got the wrong guy," I said. "I don't have a business loan. I'm an engineer." The man, David, paused for a beat. "Sir, the loan was issued 18 months ago. The application lists you as the sole proprietor of a consulting firm. The address on file is your home address. Can you confirm the last 4 digits of your social security number for me?" He read them off, and a cold dread just washed over me. They were mine. My heart started pounding against my ribs. It felt like the floor had vanished. "That's impossible," I stammered. "There has to be a mistake. Identity theft, maybe?" "It's possible, sir," he said, his tone softening a little. "You'd need to file a police report and submit an affidavit." But the loan was approved, and we received payments for over a year before they stopped. "We need to arrange for payment." I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. $92,000. A business loan. None of it made any sense. My first thought was it had to be a really sophisticated scam. My second thought was Sarah. She handled all the money. If there was a mistake, she'd know how to fix it. That evening, I waited for her to get home. The hours just crawled by, every minute tightening the knot of anxiety in my stomach. When she finally walked in, all smiles, asking about my day, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told her about the call. Her reaction was not what I expected. No shock, no outrage from me. Instead, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place, fear maybe, shot across her face before she put on a calm, dismissive smile. "Oh, honey, don't worry about that," she said, waving her hand like she was shooing away a fly. "It's just an aggressive telemarketer or a scam. They use public records to sound legit. I'll block the number. Just forget about it." She was so convincing, so reassuring, that I almost did. God, I wanted to. But that cold feeling in my gut just wouldn't go away. I couldn't sleep that night. The collector's words just kept replaying in my head. The application lists you as the sole proprietor. Around 2 a.m., I crept out of bed and went to home office. Her space. My heart was hammering as I turned on my laptop. I'd never felt the need to check our finances before. I didn't even know most of the passwords. I started with the one thing I could access myself, my credit report. I went to one of the credit bureau sites, filled in my info, and paid the fee. The page loaded, and my world just tilted on its axis. It wasn't just one loan. It was three. There was the $92,000 business loan from Crestline Financial. Then a line of credit for $150,000 from a different bank, opened 2 years ago. And a third, the monster, a consolidated personal loan for $250,000, taken out just 6 months back. The screen glowed in the dark room, a monument to a life I didn't know I was living. The total was nearly $500,000, and my name was on every single one. The confusion was gone, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. I felt like a detective at a crime scene where I was also the victim. I started digging. I found the online portal for the bank that issued the big personal loan. After a few failed password attempts, I tried the one she used for everything. Her childhood pet's name and her birth year. I was in, and there it was, the loan application. My name, my social, my date of birth. It listed my employer, but with a wildly inflated salary. And at the bottom, a digital signature. My signature. Except it wasn't. It was a clumsy, almost insulting fake. A wave of nausea hit me. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a stranger. This was a deliberate, calculated fraud committed by my own wife. My search turned frantic. I started tearing through the pristine filing cabinets she was so proud of, tucked behind a row of neatly labeled tax returns. I found a folder simply marked miscellaneous. Inside was everything she never meant for me to see. Statements from secret bank accounts I'd never heard of. Credit card bills in her name with staggering balances. Packed with charges for luxury clothes, spa days, and high-end electronics. A lifestyle way beyond what we were supposedly living. The puzzle pieces slammed together into a horrifying picture. She was living a double life. Funded by debt she was piling up in my name. The spreadsheets, the budgeting, all the talk about saving. It was an act, a carefully constructed show to keep me quiet and trusting while she secretly drowned us. That $250,000 loan, I realized, was probably a desperate gamble to pay the minimums on all the other hidden debts, a last-ditch effort to keep the whole house of cards from collapsing. I just sat there on the office floor, surrounded by the proof of her betrayal, until the sun came up. The woman I had loved for 15 years, the woman I trusted with my entire life, was a complete stranger, and she had just signed my name to a financial death sentence. The confrontation was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I laid the forged loan application, the secret credit card statements, and my credit report on the kitchen table. When she came downstairs, still smiling, her face just fell the second she saw the papers. The mask was gone. "What is this, Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. At first, she tried to lie. She called it a misunderstanding, a mix-up, just some clerical errors. But I held my ground, pointing to each document, each fake signature, each hidden account. I watched her denials get weaker, her excuses more frantic, until it all came pouring out in a flood of sobs and confessions. She admitted everything. The first loan was to cover some bad investments she'd made and was too ashamed to tell me about. But then it just spiraled. She got a taste for a lifestyle we couldn't actually afford, and the lies got bigger, the debts deeper. She kept saying she always planned to pay it back, that she just needed more time. You took out $500,000 of my name. I said, the number feeling insane on my tongue. You forged my signature. You buried us. You buried me. In that moment, I knew our marriage wasn't just broken. It had never been real. It was a long con, and I was the mark. The love I felt was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about justice. This was, without a doubt, the lowest point of my life. Finding out the person you trust most has betrayed you on this level is something you can never prepare for. If you've been through anything like this, or if this story hits home, please hit the like button and subscribe. Sharing these stories is the first step toward making sure they don't happen to someone else. Now, let me tell you how I fought back. The days after confrontation were a complete blur of anger, grief, and just overwhelming fear. I was staring down a mountain of debt that legally was all mine. My name, my signature, even forged, was on the dotted line. My once excellent credit score was in ruins. Collection agencies were calling nonstop. I felt trapped, but I knew I couldn't afford to just wallow in despair. I had to fight, not just to clear my name, but to hold Sarah accountable for the ruin she caused. My first move was to hire a lawyer, one who specialized in messy, high-asset divorces. In our first meeting, I laid everything on his conference table. The forged applications, the secret statements, the whole timeline. He listened, his face grim. When I was done, he looked me right in the eye and said, "This is financial infidelity on a massive scale. But it's more than that. It's fraud. Our goal isn't just to get you divorced. It's to prove the fraud and make damn sure you are not on the hook for a single penny of this." The legal battle had to be fought on two fronts. First up, the lenders. My lawyer immediately had me file a police report for identity theft and forgery. This was a critical step. It created an official record of the crime. Then, we sent affidavits to each bank, stating under penalty of perjury that I had never signed for or authorized any of these loans. As you can imagine, the banks pushed back at first. To them, they'd given a loan to a guy with a great credit history who suddenly stopped paying. They just wanted their money. This is where the second part of our strategy kicked in. We hired a forensic accountant. It was expensive, but it was absolutely necessary. This guy's job was to trace every single dollar. He meticulously dug through years of bank statements, loan disbursements, and credit card records. His final report was a masterpiece. It proved, without a shadow of a doubt, two key things. First, that the loan money never went into any joint account I could access, but was funneled directly into Sarah's secret accounts. And second, that the money was used for her personal spending, with zero benefit to me or our marriage. This was the ammunition we needed to prove I had implicitly approved the debt by enjoying the spoils. The second front of this war was the divorce itself. We live in a community property state, where debts from a marriage are usually split 50-50ths. But there are big exceptions for things like fraud and what's called a breach of fiduciary duty. Spouses have a legal duty to be honest with each other about money. Sarah hadn't just been dishonest. She had committed multiple felonies against me. During the divorce, Sarah had to fill out a financial disclosure form, listing all her assets and debts, and sign it under oath. This is where her web of lies finally cornered her. Even though her own lawyer told her to come clean, she still tried to downplay everything. She listed some of the debt, but lied about how the money was spent, and conveniently left out one of the secret accounts our accountant had already found. That was her final, fatal mistake. My lawyer used our accountant's report to prove her sworn financial statement was a lie. She hadn't just lied to me anymore. She had now lied to the court. She had committed perjury. The judge was furious. Lying under oath is something the courts take incredibly seriously because it attacks the foundation of the whole justice system. The consequences came fast, and they were severe. First, In the divorce case, the judge made a ruling that was both just and punishing, citing the mountain of evidence of forgery and fraud. The court assigned 100% of the $500,000 debt to Sarah. I was officially free. He then used a state law that penalizes a spouse for fraud, similar to a code in California, to award me 70% of the legitimate marital assets, not the usual 50-50 split. On top of that, he ordered her to pay all of my legal fees and the forensic accountant's bill, which was over $50,000. The judge basically stripped her of every financial benefit she'd gotten from 15 years of lying. But it didn't stop there. Because she lied on a sworn court document, the judge referred her case to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. The DA charged her with felony perjury and multiple counts of forgery, facing an open-end shut case, built on her own conflicting statements in our accountant report. She had no choice but to plead guilty. The judge in her criminal case sentenced her to 2 years in prison. 2 years. The sentence was a shock, but the judge was clear. The sheer scale of the fraud, the years of deception, and her blatant lie to the court warranted a serious penalty. Forgery and fraud aren't just civil issues. They are crimes, and they have real consequences. Watching the person I once loved being let out of a courtroom in handcuffs is an image I will carry with me forever. There was no victory in it, just a profound, hollow sadness. The life we had together, the one I treasured, was an illusion. She built a fantasy on a mountain of debt, and when it all came crashing down, it almost took me with it. The road to clearing my name was long, expensive, and emotionally draining. It took almost 2 years to untangle the financial mess and see the legal process through. I had to sell the house we shared just to cover the initial legal costs and start over. Rebuilding my financial life has been hard, but rebuilding my ability to trust people, that's been even harder. But I did rebuild, and I learned some incredibly tough lessons. The first is that trust, when it comes to money, should always come with verification. I now look at all my own bank statements and check my credit report twice a year, without fail. Financial transparency isn't about a lack of trust. It's about mutual respect. The second lesson is that you cannot be afraid to fight for yourself. When you're a victim of fraud, especially from someone you love, it's easy to feel paralyzed by shame and betrayal. But the law has protections for a reason. Filing a police report, calling the banks, and hiring experts aren't acts of revenge. They're acts of survival. Proving the fraud isn't just about getting out of the debt. It's about taking your life and your name back. Today, my life is smaller, simpler, and infinitely more honest. The weight of that secret $500,000 debt is gone, lifted not just by a court order, but by the decision I made to face the truth and fight back. My story is a warning for sure, but I hope it's also a story of empowerment. Deception can only survive in silence. The moment you decide to speak up, to dig deeper, to take action, that's the moment you start to take your power back. Thanks for listening to my story. If you're looking for resources on how to protect yourself from financial fraud, or what to do if you think you're a victim, I've left some links in the description below. Stay vigilant and take care of yourselves.